alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Go to the church, though.
Tawali man, what's up?
Man, can you imagine people just dump everywhere? Someone drinks water and throws the bottle wherever.
Come on, Rogers. What else do you expect people to do with an empty bottle?
Simanya now, do you know that plastics take at least 450 years to decompose?
What? That's a long time.
Exactly. Because plastics are made out of a lightweight and flexible material that doesn't decompose easily. And plastics everywhere in the environment cause plastic pollution.
What is plastic pollution now?
It is the accumulation of plastic waste in the environment, like bottles, polythene bags, straws. All of these contribute to plastic pollution.
I have been using them without knowing their effect.
Yeah, a lot of people have. Plastics are a danger to the ecosystem, both on land and in water.
So how can we overcome this problem? Is there something we can do?
Oh yes, we can reduce by minimizing the use of plastics, reuse by repurposing them, or recycle by collecting and processing them into new products.
Everyone wants to change the world, but no one wants to change themselves for the world.
How about we change our habits for the world?
And it starts with me and you.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digitalk.
Hi Rogers, can I ask you something?
Shoot.
What does corruption mean?
Well, summarily, corruption is abuse of public power for personal gain or for the benefit of a group to which one owes allegiance. For example, when a public office is abused by an official accepting or soliciting a bribe. By the way, private people can be corrupt too, like bribing police officers to escape fines.
Okay. So exactly how does that concern me?
Well, do you pay taxes?
I guess yeah. What does that have to do with this?
Everything. Because those taxes you pay are supposed to facilitate services you use, like water, electricity, roads construction, medicines in hospitals, name it.
Okay, that is much bigger than I thought. But it can be stopped, right?
Well, yes it can, although it may not be as easy as it sounds. And here is the reason why. Corruption roots are grounded in our country's social, political, economic, bureaucratic traditions and policies.
So, what has kept it going this long? I mean, why don't we stop it?
Well, the main reason why it has been here for so long is because institutions are weak, either as a result of poorly defined ethical standards of public service, weak administrative and financial systems, or ineffective watchdog agencies.
What can we do to stop it?
At a national level, we must focus on strengthening the independence and effectiveness of public institutions that fight corruption. At a personal level, we must commit to never giving a bribe.
I promise I'll never give a bribe.
Well, that's a great decision you have made. Me and you now have to spread this message to all our friends. If we all do our part, corruption will be no more.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digitalk. The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Hello and a warm welcome to the Interface Show, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Edgar Matthew Karuhanga. As we speak, it is the 17th day of June 2023, and of course we are here on a Saturday morning trying to inform Uganda or talk to Uganda or have a conversation with Uganda about what is happening in the country. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to Digitalk TV. This is the Interface Show. It happens every particular Saturday from 10 a.m. to 12 midday. We're always here having a conversation with Ugandan politician and of course veteran politician at that, Dr. Retired Colonel Kizza Besigye. He's always here trying to touch base on some of the issues that have been happening in society in Uganda, and of course we try to find solutions to the various challenges that keep on coming each and every other day. But this particular week, we were, honored to have good news. That is Omsinga Warwenzururu, Charles Weasley Mumbere was able to, was released, and 217 other royal guards, and of course all charges were dropped in that particular regard. That is the biggest story that has been, in the week, in the days throughout the week. Many people, the residents of Kasese, you saw them jubilating, hululating, throwing here and there celebrations for their king, so that because he's already, released and out, and of course happy, and everybody is happy because he's out. Remember, Musinga was arrested or incarcerated in 2016 following charges of terrorism, and of course other particular charges therein. But this week, after them requesting for amnesty, 217 and the king were able to, be released, and all charges dropped in that particular regard. Still, this particular week on Thursday, we had the budget reading day, or the budget speech right there at Kololo, Independence Grounds. The president was there, but of course, because he had a bit of COVID-19, he was not able to, be around the close to the people. But of course, he made some remarks there, and the Minister of Finance, Matia Kaseija, projected our new budget at 52.7 trillion. And of course, Ugandans are here and there asking, is this our budget? Does it really reflect on the issues that Ugandans are having, or it's just any other day? Many Ugandans are really not conversant about this particular budget, but how is it going to be helping Ugandans therein? We shall be also touching base on that particular issue in that particular regard. We also have a lot of stories, so what you can do, just send us a direct message, send us a comment, or anything else, any message that you want Dr. Kizza Besigye to reply to, some of your queries. Some people had some queries throughout the week. We shall be also talking about that. But that is really how the country looks like. DNA results these days, what is happening there. A lot of negative results coming in. Many people increasingly going to check for their DNA and the DNA of their children. Those are some of the things that Ugandans are really talking about throughout this entire week. So on this Saturday morning, allow me welcome retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye to just greet you and of course have his opening remarks. Dr. Kizza Besigye, it's always a privilege and a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you very much, Edgar, and I equally appreciate the opportunity given to me by Digitalk TV to share opinions on this wonderful platform. A very good morning to all of you who have tuned in to Digitalk this morning, wherever you are tuning in from. I hope you've had a good week. It's been, as usual, challenging for most people. I've certainly been one of those experiencing significant challenges. And so all of you who are passing through tough times, you have my sympathy and prayers that things may look up. This week we saw off the Honorable Kato Lubwama, who had decreed that he should not be buried until after 1 week, and this was respected definitely, and it gave an opportunity to all or most of his friends to say something about him, to mourn him, and to reflect on his life. So I can only say that, he's played his role in the 52 or 53 years he's been here, and we thank the Lord for his contribution, and may he rest in peace. And similarly, I wish all those who have lost dear ones, to have the mercies of our Lord. I lost my godfather, David Kanabahita in Kabale, who is being put to rest today, and I hope to get there at some stage. I've also lost a very dear friend, relative and neighbor in Rukunjiri. And so, it's been quite a tough week, but those of us who are still kicking, let's keep on kicking very hard and doing whatever we can to have a better country, certainly to have better health for all of us, and to be hopeful that we can live better lives in our country. I hope you enjoy this program.
Of course, thank you so much, Doctor, and it's always a pleasure for us to have you. Doctor, you've mentioned something about Katolubwam, and I reiterate the words you made on the vigil when you were there. Very strong sentiments there, and the main thing I can say is you decided to tell him to report because Ugandans are desperate enough. For you, your option is tulopere in Uganda. That's what you are saying. Tulopere abantu abamazewe gwanga lyaffe. Doctor, in all words, this is what really inspired your speech? This is just my personal question.
Well, first of all, I am a strong believer in the Lord and in spiritual power. I don't believe that we only have power that we exercise as human beings on our own. I believe that there is also supernatural power. And for those of us who are indeed in faith, who really believe in some faiths, we believe that we are created, we are a creation of the Lord, and that our journey on earth is also moderated and interacted with by that spiritual power, and that later on when we die, the bodies perish and are buried, but the spirits, that our spirits live on.
Yes.
And so I believe there is a communication between what we are doing and what is in the supernatural. And, you know, definitely anybody who is living in the kind of way that the late Paul Katolubwam left will have a lot of things to report about the tough, the injustice especially. Because you see, we who believe in God believe that all of us were created to be equal. And that is why even when we talk about human rights, the premise is that we are all equal. We are born equal.
Yes.
And that we must have an equal voice on this earth. And, and that is exactly the opposite of what obtains in most of the areas where we live. Certainly in Uganda, the injustice in Uganda is one that you know, is not within acceptable margins. We have extreme injustice, and we are just going to be talking about some of it, where people can determine to end others' lives without you know, even any due process, where people have power over lives of others.
Yes.
Can maim them, can torture them, can maim them, can kill them, in any case can deprive them of things that would sustain their lives, you know, steal from them, you know, destroy what would be services that would help people. And so these are matters of great concern when you are, you know, interacting with a situation where somebody indeed has died young, like Kato, who was only 50 years. And part of what definitely, you know, caused his early departure is that our healthcare system is totally dysfunctional. In fact, he had with a lot of struggle been to Turkey
Yes.
to seek help.
Help, yes. True.
And considering how expensive it is, I don't think that even while there you go through what you need to go through, you continue being monitored after you leave hospital as you should be monitored. So many of our people die needlessly when they shouldn't die. And so eulogizing a person like Kato who falls in that kind of category, early death, healthcare challenges in a country that should have healthcare that does not. Why? Because of injustice. I think that's what inspired me to really say, wherever he has gone, if there is an avenue to report to those who have power over what is going on here, then he should make a very, very strong report about the injustices he has left behind. So that as we struggle, and we must struggle, that then we can be reinforced by the power of the Lord to reach a new situation in our country.
Yeah, and at least you also mentioned that Kato was able to even fly out, because now that is a few.
Yeah.
That is just Kato who can do that.
Absolutely.
The majority of Ugandans cannot fly out.
Absolutely. Even him, he was really largely unable. It was through a lot of struggles of contribution, of funds from friends, from government, begging government, which should have provided the health care for everybody, to pay attention to this one individual. So, yes, it was an inspiration to talk about where he's going and how the situation here needs to be highlighted.
Okay, thank you so much, Doctor. Doctor, let's move on to one of the most trending issues of this particular week. That is the release of the 217 cadres, or let's say the dropping of charges from the King of Rwenzururu and his 217 royal guards. Doctor, I'm just going to ask you this. Is this a win for Omusinga? Is this a win for government? Or is it a win for the people of Kasese?
I don't know whether there is any win for anyone. Maybe not. I don't think anybody wins. Certainly, the
government is absolved, because
it's not. Certainly, far from it. It's not absolved. Certainly, the Omusinga Wesley will be relieved that not only can he regain freedom, but that he can interact with his kingdom again, with his Obusinga, Rwenzururu, which has been leaderless and having challenges as a result of that. So Omusinga will and his family and the people of Kasese, or the Banyarwenzururu in general, because Banyarwenzururu are not just in Kasese, they are also in other districts, that they will be all relieved by the release of Omusinga and also the 217 people that were released along with him. The people of Uganda too, the broad population of the country, should also feel happy that this has happened, that people whose rights have been grossly abused for so long, that has at least for now been eased. So it's relief rather than win or no win. you must understand that this is an episode, a case where Mr. Museveni and his junta committed heinous offenses, grave offenses of wantonly massacring people. You know, over 100 people were killed in a palace of Musinga and or around the palace on some flimsy accusation that they believed that they had soldiers there, that there were weapons inside the palace.
Yes.
A palace which they had already surrounded with their forces. It was already ringed off. So under siege, they could have just, even if their suspicions were true, they could have maintained the siege until all these people surrender, because there is no way they would have held on inside without supplies for long. So they could have made them surrender at some stage without the need to destroy, to kill, to do all the things that Satan is famous for, killing and destroying, and, so it was very, very unnecessary. It was an extreme action. If anybody remembers the picture,
Yes.
of bodies piled outside the gate of the destroyed palace, that picture will always remain in whichever mind has seen that image.
Yeah.
It was ghastly. Then they paraded women naked out of the palace, again on cameras. It was horrific and totally uncalled for, totally unnecessary. Because even if there were actually subversive, armed people in the palace, once you have sieged the whole place, as had been done by the UPDF, you don't have to attack it. There was nothing prompting them to do so.
The commander said that they had given them an ultimatum.
Yes, but why do you have to give them an ultimatum even? Because the ultimatum was given by the commander. Yeah. Why do you have to? And that if it passes, you destroy the whole place. Why do you have to? The question is, what happens?
These people are terrorists. They are killing.
Okay. Let's assume that even Bin Laden was inside the palace. What would he have done if you maintained the siege? What would stop them surrendering eventually? Peacefully, without having to kill anybody, because you have cordoned off the whole place. Nobody is going to flee and disappear. No terrorist is going to disappear. So it was totally uncalled for. Even when you assume the worst that was inside, there was no reason whatsoever for, killing everybody that was inside there, burning the palace and parading all those women naked and piling the bodies there and the mass graves that still exist in Kasese. It was totally uncalled for. It was crime in cold blood. There is nothing that can describe it any less. And sooner or later, it will have to be investigated, and those behind it will face the consequences sooner or later, because the perpetrators will not remain in power forever. They will have to be tried. Even if they are dead, they will be tried for the crimes they committed. You see? So this was a terrible, horrific episode that was totally unnecessary. Secondly,
Yes, sir.
as we all know now, there was nothing inside. You see, it's like Bush, who said he was going to attack Iraq because they were chemical weapons. And, you know, he cited the whole world that there is danger that abounds. When actually he did not have the information, and there were no such things. So even after destroying the palace, there were no weapons there. There was no terrorist. There was nothing.
Apart from spears and...
Yes, you know, which are traditional instruments in any home. Thirdly, having committed all those heinous offenses and arrested the king and his subjects, subject them to the due process of the law. Because since you say they are criminals, they are terrorists, they are whatever, that's okay. But bring evidence and try them in a judicial process that can determine whether indeed they are guilty or not. It has been 7 years.
Yes.
No single trial has ever happened in 7 years. Ahead of the last elections, and for obvious reasons, some, I think they were 100 or whatever, were released.
They were released, true.
Again, without any explanation, they said these ones can go, you know? Who should have been tried? Because they were in jail for 5 years.
At the time.
So, the violation of people's rights, even after the attack, destruction, and killing that happened, those who were detained have had their rights totally violated. Because if you don't try anybody, then you yourself who detained that person, you have a case.
There is no justice served.
Absolutely. So
Justice served.
these people were not tried. If they ever had evidence at all, they should have presented the evidence in courts of law so that the country can know why even that extreme violence was necessary. Because this was not an ordinary situation of somebody suspected of committing murder in a village and you are investigating the murder. This was following an attack and atrocity on a palace, and the people involved or you suspect are involved, then you arrest them. Some were suspected, of course, to have killed. You remember there were some policemen who were killed and so on.
And police posts being attacked.
Yes. So, if you are saying somebody has been killed, who of course had a family also, you know, had children that were looked up to him and so on, that family will be interested to know who killed their people. You know, and indeed the Ugandans, that's why a case, any crime is a crime against the state. We are all keen to know, because whoever killed those policemen could also turn around and kill me. So I'm interested to know who killed the policemen or other security people who were who may have been killed in Kasese. We are all keen to know who killed them. Nobody.
And yet the attack was because some people were being killed.
Yes.
So the irony would be, yes, you have attacked, so to legitimize, let's charge these people. We think we're attacking the policemen, but you have not charged them.
Precisely.
So that means there is no justice for them,
Precisely.
and there is no justice for
There is
these
no
ones
justice
killed.
for the people you are detaining.
Yes.
There is no justice for the
ones you are
victims,
defending.
the victim, those who are supposed to be their victims.
Yes.
There is no justice for them. There is no justice for the people of Uganda.
Yeah.
And so the whole thing stinks. That is all. It stinks from A to Z. Now, what we are told then is that after 7 years, they were granted amnesty.
Yes, they applied for amnesty and they were granted it.
So very clearly, this is another case where, and the Amnesty Commission should also really avoid being used in extracting ransom, because this is what it is tending to be.
What do you mean by that?
Because you see, having killed people without justification, knowing they have no evidence to present in court, what they do is simply to torture those who are in prisons. They call them and meet them and say, you know, if you don't apply for amnesty, you will never leave prison. You will not be tried and you will not leave prison. You will actually die in prison. And many have died in prison. Those who were detained, I don't know the number up to the time these ones were released, but quite a number. And we need that report too. How many died in prison?
They say 9 died in prison.
The last time I think I had heard they were about 7.
There are 9.
That was, yeah, I think at the time of release of the other ones.
So at the time of this release, they say 9 are the ones.
Quite possibly more. But even if they were 9, so that they tell them, you know, you are going to die like those ones. If you don't simply sign these papers, they even take the papers to them in prison. You sign these papers, applying for amnesty, then we can release you. In other words, they want to use the amnesty process to create an impression that they admit guilt.
That's what I was saying. That's why I asked you.
Of course, this
is this a win for government?
This is why I'm telling you, it's ransom. It's nothing else but ransom. People are held at ransom to sign those things. And I can tell you from first-hand information, because when we were being tried for treason ourselves in 2005, well, me, I joined the others. I joined 21 others, I think, 21 or 22 others who had already been charged, whom had already spent, I think, 2 years in prison before myself I joined them, charged with treason, charged with terrorism, not being taken to court to be tried. They were the amnesty people, this amnesty commission, and soldiers were visiting these 22 people, demanding of them and threatening them, just like I have been telling you. Some are still alive. They can be asked what exactly happened. So they would come and people would say, no, you try us. We are not going to sign those things. We have been in prison for 2-3 years. You say we had a case, you try us. We are not asking for amnesty. Then they would be threatened and then they would go. After a month, they come back. Yeah? You people are still stubborn.
You don't want to sign amnesty.
You don't want to sign amnesty, you know? So it goes on and on. The weak-hearted then start signing. It may be 1 or 2. And when they sign, then they arrange for them with a lot of pomp and say, you see, this one now is going to be free, and they take them out, and
the same story. I saw the buses of UPDF taking the people of Kasese. Those
yes.
And there is a military patrol.
Yes.
With
to show, this one signed.
I'm like, but these are the people who did.
Yes. So then they come back for the rest. You see what happened to the other people who signed? They are enjoying themselves. They are, they are free. We are even trying to help them to reestablish themselves. And they start now nagging the others to sign. In the case in which I was, eventually, after years, 17 signed and were released on amnesty, charged with the same charges and facts like I was. Of course, I didn't ask for amnesty. Neither did my other 4 co-accused. They refused completely to ask for amnesty. So why didn't they try us? Those of us who didn't ask for amnesty, who didn't say we are, why didn't they try us? They didn't. You remember, those are the 4 people who eventually were given bail by the High Court because they had spent by that time, I think, about 4 years, yes, without trial happening. So the court gave them bail. Then that was the first episode of soldiers attacking court, the Black Mambas, attacking the court and violently rearresting those 4. When they rearrested those 4, 2 of them were taken to Arua and charged with murder. In Arua. 2, who included my younger brother, were taken to Bushenyi, charged with murder. And they spent another 1 or 2 years there under the murder charges now. Neither did the charges which had kept them in Rosira, nor the murder charges were ever tried. They were eventually all withdrawn because, like in the case of, in all those cases in Arua and in Bushenyi, the people who were supposed to have been murdered had never existed in the first place. There was no such person who lived that was murdered. The people who were supposed to have been murdered did not come from any village. They were not known ever. They have never lived. So this is simply a criminal regime terrorizing its citizens, holding them at ransom, and extracting those kinds of funny confessions. They have absolutely nothing to do with anybody being guilty, absolutely nothing. That's why they cannot try them in the first place. These ones have been there for 7 years. Why wouldn't you try them? Your job is not to get people to sign amnesty, as I have said. And I would be interested to know, among those who signed amnesty, whether somebody said he had killed the policeman. What kind of amnesty have they signed? Because there are specific crimes that should have been investigated. Who killed so and so? Because we all have an interest
exactly
to find out. So this is simply a demonstration of the criminality of the NRM junta. That is all. That is all this. That's what these cases really demonstrate. They embody. They are like the emblem of criminality of the NRM junta.
Okay, Doctor, my other question would be, when you look at the track record, There are many people who have not got justice in this country, including yourself. Remember the people who died in 2020 during those elections? 54 Ugandans at least died. We've never had anybody being charged. You have been...
Not even investigated, later on charged.
And this has been happening over time. I remember the last time when the pepper sprayed you and you were handled and all that, and nothing goes on. We just bury these skeletons in the closet. What do you think what does this mean to Uganda if we're having that continuous injustice, people not getting justice, just people crying? And imagine people like a wife of Zebra who was got arrested and killed there and then, and President Museveni accepted that he had sent soldiers there. You know, many people, many Ugandans have really been in this
but you
story.
see, as I have said, a criminal system cannot investigate itself.
Yes.
So we cannot expect that we will get answers while a criminal system is in charge of a country.
Yes, Doctor.
You know, it's a criminal outfit that is holding the country hostage. And the preoccupation of Ugandans, therefore, must be to get rid of the criminal outfit, create circumstances that can now establish a rule of law. And that's why we have been talking about transition, that when this junta is no longer there, when people have reasserted their will, the population, not some other usurper. Because you see, there are people who think that, who include obviously the MK army, who think that they can somehow, whether by Museveni accepting or by pushing him aside, that they can have a new regime that is acceptable. It cannot be. It cannot be acceptable. The new regime to be acceptable must arise out of citizens. So citizens must first regain control over their country. They must organize a transition mechanism that includes reestablishing constitutional order. In other words, making or improving, if that is what is needed, the constitution of Uganda under a new dispensation, rebuilding state institutions so that they are institutions of the people.
Yeah.
Today we don't have institutions of the people, we have institutions of the junta.
You always reiterate here that the institutions work for the people in power.
Yes, absolutely. So that is why the change that will cause a transition is a particular type of change, not any change. A Muhozi change cannot be change. He will just be succeeding his father and his criminality. There is nothing that will have changed. So now, if people have regained control over the country, they have the influence and control, they have reestablished a constitutional order based on their will. They have created institutions based on their will. Now, these institutions, among other things, will have to do what we call a fact-finding mission on the crimes of the previous junta and even other crimes that have taken place. So we must have a truth-telling, justice, and reconciliation process. The country itself needs very, very seriously to be reconciled. There are big, elements of anger
Yes. People are
across
angry.
the country.
They're just quiet, but people are angry.
Yes, there is a lot of anger and justified anger. And part of that anger is not knowing the truth. Because like there has always been debate about who killed people in Ruwero. Some people saying it was the UNLA soldiers who killed the people in Ruwero. Some in the UNLA soldiers and in the government of UPC, which was in power then, say it was the guerrillas who were in Ruwero, led by Museveni, who killed the people in Ruwero. Now, the truth needs to be established and can be established. Who killed the people in northern Uganda over the 20 years of war? Some say it's Kony and his forces who were cutting off people's lips and ears and so on. Others say, no, it's UPDF, which was pretending to be Kony and doing these things. We must establish the truth. What happened in eastern Uganda, you know, during the UPA insurgency and all those atrocities that happened in eastern Uganda, in Mukura and in other places. Similarly, Kasese,
Exactly.
what actually happened? Who ordered these atrocities to be committed? Who committed them? And who were the victims? And who? So that truth-telling process can only happen in the transition, not during the reign of the offenders themselves, or suspects, or at least,
yeah, let's call them suspects.
or at least suspects.
They're also suspected, yeah.
Well, in some cases, they are outrightly offenders. You know, they are the ones who certainly kept all these people in prisons. There is nobody who if they are not a suspect, they are the ones who, without charge, without trial, kept all these people, and 9 died in prison and so on. They are the ones. So that is why that whole process is there. And once we know the truth, then we can see what kind of justice will lead to reconciliation and a new Uganda. So that cannot be expected now. For now, we must keep on contending with fresh atrocities until we are able to get over this. Regrettably, that is the reality. You know, until we are able to get over.
You speak the truth that hurts, really.
Yeah, until we are able to get over this whole thing, we will have to contend with the atrocities. You know, I've been happy that our brother Kakwenza Kizza Besigye has been given another recognition this week. You know, for his writing.
His dissent.
Yes,
in writing.
and part of what he has written lately, which is published, it's called something Avenger. What is it? It's called
The Savage Avenger.
Savage Avenger or something. I think it's Savage Avenger. It is about his the horrific situation in which he passed and survived before running into exile.
Yeah.
You know, he was nearly killed. And from the stories, some of the stories he tells, you know, he was tortured right in SFC, and he brings out vivid pictures of.
He also mentions the names of some of the people who were behind that.
So I can't, give you false hope that this kind of situation is about to end, short of the entire criminal outfit getting out of power and the people of Uganda regaining control over the country and establishing a new order.
Of course. Thank you so much, Dr. Kizza Besigye. Those were insightful discussions. They were still talking about what happened in Kasese and, of course, the release of the 217 subjects on amnesty. They applied for amnesty and they were able to be given that particular amnesty. Amnesty literally means you accept that you were part of the activities that were subverging government and something like that. So, as we speak today, the government seems to be absolving itself from the massacre that was there in Kasese. Remember, it happened in 2016, where over 100 Ugandans lost their lives. And of course, up to date, seven years, many of them have been incarcerated, but were recently released in this particular week. We're going to go for a short commercial break, ladies and gentlemen. But when we come back, there was budget day. Of course, we had some remarks from the Minister of Constitutional Affairs and Justice, that is Norbert Mao, against retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye. He was on one of Uganda's, TV programs there, and he made a bit of some remarks and accusations to Dr. Besigye, which we wanted him to highlight upon. And of course, we also have many more issues that are still pending. When we come back for the second hour of the show, we are going to be touching base on that particular issue. My name is Edgar Matthew Karuhanga. I am still with retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye. This is the Interface Show, and of course, you're still watching Digitalk TV. Let's go for a short commercial break.
Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Hi Rogers, can I ask you something?
Shoot.
What does corruption mean?
Well, summarily, corruption is abuse of public power for personal gain or for the benefit of a group to which one owes allegiance. For example, when a public office is abused by an official accepting or soliciting a bribe. By the way, private people can be corrupt too, like bribing police officers to escape fines.
Okay. So exactly how does that concern me?
Well, do you pay taxes?
I guess, yeah. What does that have to do with this?
Everything. Because those taxes you pay are supposed to facilitate services you use, like water, electricity, roads construction, medicines in hospitals, name it.
Okay. That is much bigger than I thought. But it can be stopped, right?
Well, yes, it can, although it may not be as easy as it sounds. And here is the reason why. Corruption roots are grounded in our country's social, political, economic, bureaucratic traditions and policies.
So, what has kept it going this long? I mean, why don't we stop it?
Well, the main reason why it has been here for so long is because institutions are weak, either as a result of poorly defined ethical standards of public service, weak administrative and financial systems, or ineffective watchdog agencies.
What can we do to stop it?
At a national level, we must focus on strengthening the independence and effectiveness of public institutions that fight corruption. At a personal level, we must commit to never giving a bribe.
I promise I'll never give a bribe.
That's a great decision you have made. Me and you now have to spread this message to all our friends. If we all do our part, corruption will be no more.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digitalk.
Go to the church, though.
Tawali man, what's up?
Man, can you imagine people just dump everywhere? Someone drinks water and throws the bottle wherever.
Come on, Rogers. What else do you expect people to do with an empty bottle?
Simanya now, did you know that plastics take at least 450 years to decompose?
What? That's a long time.
Exactly. Because plastics are made out of a lightweight and flexible material that doesn't decompose easily. And plastics everywhere in the environment cause plastic pollution.
What is plastic pollution now?
It is the accumulation of plastic waste in the environment, like bottles, polythene bags, straws. All of these contribute to plastic pollution.
I have been using them without knowing their effect.
Yeah, a lot of people have. Plastics are a danger to the ecosystem, both on land and in water.
So how can we overcome this problem? Is there something we can do?
Oh yes, we can reduce by minimizing the use of plastics, reuse by repurposing them, or recycle by collecting and processing them into new products.
Everyone wants to change the world, but no one wants to change themselves for the world.
How about we change our habits for the world?
And it starts with me and you.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digitalk.
The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Back from that short commercial break, ladies and gentlemen, you're still watching the Interface Show with retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye. My name is Edgar Matthew Karuhanga. We are done with the first hour of the show. We are into the second and the final hour of the show. And of course, thank you so much for always tuning in every Saturday. Thank you. It's always a privilege to have you right here. As we went in for a short commercial break, we were talking about Singa Orenzururu and of course his release, which we are not going to be talking about. Let's delve into the budget. The national budget was read on Thursday this particular week, and of course it's now 52.7 trillion shillings. Uganda is expected to continue growing, though the question is, are we growing in numbers or are we growing as a people? Because when you say that we are already past lower middle income, but when you look at Ugandans, does each and every Ugandan, is every Ugandan able to get $1,036 per month? I really do not think this is accurate. But of course, according to the Minister of Finance, there is still stable growth in Uganda, and of course, most of the money has been invested, of course, in human capital. Of course, the parish development model has some money there in. There's still, a budget that is going on. Ugandans are there, and the only challenge here is that it does not really resonate with what is on ground, and that is something that many Ugandans have been talking about, that yes, we hear these figures, we hear them being spoken of, but they do not really reflect into our pockets and our wallets. So how do we really move past this theory of just talking about the budget? Yes, but really how does it start making sense to a Ugandan who's out there? You remember it has now increased. Last year it was around 46, but today we are in 52.7 trillion. When you round it off, it can be 53, but I don't want to enter there because those dynamics are also different. Those 0.3% can really also mean so much to the development of the country. But Doctor, the budget was read recently on Thursday. Do you have any comment on it? Because the comment I'm having for the people who watch this show, they say that the budget is not reflecting them. Most of them were not even watching. Most of them, it's like it's ceremonial. People are like, okay, they are in their world, but for us, we don't understand. Doctor, to you, does this budget make sense to you?
No, neither does the whole budgeting process. I don't think it really makes sense, because as anybody who has been really following how financial matters are managed in this country, they will know that the budget is what Mr. Museveni wants to spend on a particular day. He does not follow any plan. If even before the budget that has been read comes into effect, which should be on the 1st of July, if he wants it to change in significant ways, it will change. even before it is applied. You know, generally it doesn't reflect what happens in reality. So even what they say, this is what is going to happen, what happens in reality, and you can check
I
that.
thought this is the final reality now.
No, the final reality is what actually gets spent in the different areas. These are called estimates. So the estimates of income and expenditure. So they estimate what they will earn through taxes, and decide where it will be spent. The reality is where the expenses actually happen. You know, so you can have in your budget estimates that you have been given 20 billion. The financial year can end without you receiving 1 million. You had 20 billion budgeted for you, but none was spent there. And so the actual budget is what is spent quarterly. So every quarter, they release funds, actual money now, to different the different departments of government. That is the reality I'm talking about.
Yes.
And that differs very significantly from what is actually budgeted. So what is spent on is also determined. The priority, where they say now this month we have collected maybe 1 trillion shillings. Where should we spend it? Where that is spent is also determined by Mr. Museveni and his people. So
because they are the head of government.
Of course. So this is why I'm telling you that this budgeting process and what is read is a sheer waste of time, because it doesn't have to be followed. They will, at the time of making the actual expenses, determine what is their priority. And that's where the money will actually go. And including those which were not budgeted for, they can now spend on them. And that's where you hear even things talking about supplementaries.
Those ones, at least this year, they have been deterred. There's no supplementary budget, according to the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Finance.
He's just a joker.
So this year they're not going to accept any supplementary budget.
Well, I hope God will be kind to us and we live through this year.
There's some good things, by the way, Doctor. Even the money for cars, they're not going to be releasing money for cars. So
yeah, I'm saying I hope that we live till the end of the year, and we will come back. We will come back to it
and evaluate,
because that is. So if there is some miracle which is going to happen this year, I cannot predict that the miracle will happen or won't happen. My bet is that it won't happen.
Yeah.
The same way the budget has been managed is the same way it will be managed. What will be the difference is that indeed, even those who have been activities that have been given money in the budget may never see a coin, because the reality may be indeed that they don't want possibly to borrow more, and frankly there are not many people out there who are eager to lend to them either. That's why they have been borrowing.
We've passed the 80 trillion mark.
Yes,
so
that's why they have now been borrowing from money lenders.
Yes.
The other people who would have better terms of borrowing can no longer lend to these reckless people, you know. So you must deal with the sharks like yourself.
Yes.
So, because of that reality on their part, I have no doubt that some departments, some activities for which money has actually been reflected in a budget as provided will not get anything. That is the money that will be shifted to State House.
Doctor, sorry for interrupting you, but you know what you're saying is something grave, because we want to say...
Grave but real.
This budget has passed through Parliament. Okay, some of them rubber stamp it, which is okay, but at least they have looked through it and they have accepted it. Then after Parliament passing it, then you don't implement it, you implement where you'd want to implement.
Absolutely,
but
absolutely.
Then that means who has... Then why do we budget in the first place?
So you just simply want me to restate that there is no Parliament, that there is just a figure there. If that's what you want me to restate, I am happy to do so.
It's not about the...
There are just people populating chairs in the Parliament, but it's not frankly a Parliament, a representative of the people of Uganda. It's not. And that's why, you know, we've talked about this many times. That's why people could get into Parliament and beat the hell out of them. And nobody has ever inquired about who beat up members of Parliament and whether anything can be done to those people that beat up the MPs. Nothing. So the MPs are just like any other, you know, citizen that is being whipped and tortured, and they are not any different, you know. Yes. You saw the women the other day who were making a simple protest as women MPs wanting to present a petition. You saw what happened to them. So where is that Parliament? There is no Parliament. It's just a convenient thing, you know. It's a facade. It's a convenient thing, as you call it, simply to put on a rubber that on this day, Mr. Museveni stood in Parliament and they passed a budget, and you know, it's a motion. It's a motion, going through the motion that you know, there is budget speech, you know, and there is actually something called the budget. But all these are, as I'm telling you, the reality of the matter is that all that is nonsense. So, frankly, I understand people who don't pay any attention anymore to what they were doing yesterday, and maybe they shouldn't even waste taxpayers' money to go through those motions. I think they should take advantage of the technology which is there now. The speaker simply, I mean, the Minister of Finance simply remains in his office and reads the budget on Zoom, and the matter ends. We will still know that he has read the budget. You know, they shouldn't, you know, go to Kororo, inspect the parade, I don't know what, you know, bring all kinds of things. It's all completely unnecessary. But they need it. They need it for sure. That's what the whole thing is about. They need to show that there was a budget process here. There was a speech.
So it's just for formality.
Yes. Now, having said that,
yes, sir,
I think the reality which then we must turn to is that, as we have said in previous conversations, there are two Ugandas. And these two Ugandas have totally different needs, and they you know, so this budget, or whatever budget our money ends up serving, is the budget of the Museveni Uganda, of the people who are the 1% or less than 1% who hold power or exercise power. Possibly the 9% of the population that help them in exercising that power, you know, the clerks, the what, you know, all those MPs. Indeed, yes, like the MPs. They have no power, but they help the ones who have power to exercise it. The magistrates, the judges, those officials, they are part of the 9% who don't have power but benefit from helping those who have power. So this budget is for them, the 9 or 10%. The 90+% of the population is completely marginal, is isolated, excluded, totally excluded. Of course, you may have heard them over the years, no, not over the years, over the year. And maybe the years since 2021 is now 2 years. You must have heard them very loudly singing about the parish development
that's where
model.
I was coming.
Yes, yes. Parish development model, because of the guilt which they know, which they suffer, knowing that this whole 90% is excluded. They now create that kind of a gimmick to say we are taking money now directly to the people. You know, this is the first time this is happening. It's going to transform the country. You wait, you know, things are going to happen. That's what they are fighting for. But there is nothing new going to the people. Absolutely nothing. In fact, I am sure there is less. One needs to simply do the figures. Don't forget that this money they are singing about as parish model or whatever is not new money. It is an aggregation of, I don't know, youth money, women money, I don't know which was already there. They have now repackaged it. Yes, they have repackaged it as parish model. And they say that the difference between this and the other one is that the other one went through some processes. Yeah. This one is going direct. So there is no new money, really. So that's the first thing that we must contend with.
How much is this money really?
Absolutely minuscule. This is the other thing. So first of all, there is no new money. Secondly, it is the money that we talk about here is totally minuscule. In fact, again, uncalled for. Because people can develop on their own even without any shilling. And people, it's not the role of government to provide capital for people. That's not the role of government. The role of government is to do for people what they are not able to do for themselves individually. Common goods is the primary responsibility of government. Common goods, common services.
So what you're trying to say is put medicine in the hospital.
Absolutely. So you cannot come pretending that you are bringing me money when the health center is not there. Because this money, by the time it reaches my hands, I will simply take it to pay health bills.
Yes.
my wife will be in hospital. my children are sick. You know, there are no primary health care workers in the society, even to simply make sure that people don't fall sick, that they have hygienic conditions in their home, that there are people visiting the families to see how they sleep, to see how they eat, to see what. Those are the services that government should be investing in, so that people live healthy lives. And once they are healthy, they can work. But people who are in their home, in their hearts, suffering from malaria, chronic malaria, because they cannot get adequate and proper treatment. Somebody just buys 2 tablets of headaches that is treating malaria, buys 2 of chloroquine and what, and, or self-medication. There is no way unhealthy people will become productive. So we should focus on doing fast things fast for government. That is where the disinvestment has happened. You will realize that money going to health has actually reduced.
Yes.
It has not increased, it has reduced. So you are singing about parish development model, you are reducing health care. Interns are not paid.
Yes.
The nurses are complaining. The things to use, even for more than pay, the things to use in the health care system are not there. Even gowns, to put on gowns, gloves, what, are not there. So, but you are saying I'm bringing parish development model. It's nonsense.
The argument for government, taking it directly, is that we've had a lot of corruption and people have been stealing this money on various levels, which has been accurate, that when you go to apply for maybe the youth money, they will tell you the one who's going to sign on the money has to get 1 million, but you're getting like 10 million. And when the moment it comes here, it's like 7 million. So government says, this bureaucracy has been a den for thieves to steal from. How about we take the money directly to the people?
But who will take it when everybody is a thief? Even the direct one, who will take it?
Even the direct
because the thieves, as you know, start from the top. The thieves are from the top, or the highest office is a thief. And they are all stealing along the chain. So, who will stop who? Nobody. Except occasionally just grabbing a small person and wanting to make some noise about it. But the whole establishment is corrupt. And it has no choice but actually to be corrupt in many ways. Because it's not accountable. You see, the reason governmental systems become, diligent and have integrity is not so much because of the higher moral standing of those who are in those offices. It's because of a system that has rigorous checks and that punishes anybody and everybody who steps out of the correct line of accounting.
Yeah.
You see? Now that system starts with the owners of the money having control over their money. You see?
Yes, sir.
The trouble we have, the fundamental trouble where the system becomes inherently corrupt, is that the owners of the money, who are the population, they have no control over their money. They know the thieves, but they have no capacity to deal with them. This is why, you look at the thieves who took Karamoja Mabati.
They were part. I saw one who was accused standing next to the minister, and they are taking a photo when they are launching the budget together.
Even the minister is one of them. You are talking about one standing next to him.
That minister has not been charged.
They were, but he took. You see, he took. So he's holding the briefcase, but he's a thief also. Yes, or at least he's a suspect. He's a suspect of taking, and he accepted. He said he found them in his compound.
Yes.
So these are the people whom the population knows that they are taking away their things, but what can they do? As I'm telling you, even those who are choosing of taking Karamajong, Mabati, they are still in their offices.
Yes, that's true.
You know, they are the ones reading the budget of what they have provided for themselves, what they have provided for themselves in the coming period. So that is where the lack of accountable system starts, that the owners of the money to be spent have no say and control over how their money is spent. So those holding it know that even if they misuse it, nothing can happen because the owners are not in control. You know, it's like if you had servants in your business, you start a business, you have people doing work in your business, but you have no control over them. They will steal.
They will enjoy themselves.
Yeah. Or if they know that you, who was the head of the company, you have now been sentenced to life in prison. They lavish themselves because they know you are no longer there to do anything to them.
You remind me of the Animal Farm when the pigs started sleeping in the beds of the owners.
Yes. So that is the unfortunate part of having to discuss a budget that consists of money belonging to people that have no power over it. That money in essence belongs to those who hold it, who have extracted it from the population, and they will use it as they want. So
what should the population do, Doctor?
The population has only one main task. Of course, they can keep on sounding the alarm. You know, that is reasonable. You know, keep making the noise. At least make the thieves uncomfortable. You know that they are not eating the money in some quiet environment. We must keep on shaming them, and that's what the population has not done. You know, they should really, because all these thieves, when they come, they become donors. They go to their local churches, and everybody is clapping for them because they have donated 1 million shillings of the money they stole. You know, this is what the population needs to change. Treat them as who they are, as thieves. If they come, whether they have donated or not donated or whatever, harass them. Tell them, you know, you people, you are thieves. We don't want you here. We, you know, prosecute them in your own, by your own means.
Yes.
And that will, to some extent, serve as a disincentive for others to simply lavish themselves on our money.
Yes,
but more importantly, is to do whatever is within our power to regain control over the country, so that we can have control over our money. And anybody bringing a hand to the money box illegally, that we can deal with that hand very, very firmly.
Okay.
So that is the ultimate solution.
Okay.
That is what will engender an accountable system of government, because then the owners of the money have control and can establish whatever procedures that they can supervise to make sure that they deliver on their
obligation.
Yes.
Okay. 30 minutes to the end of this particular episode. We are still with retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye. My name is Edgar Matthew Karahanga. We are talking about the budget. And that brings me to another question, Doctor, and I'm afraid you're going to leave this topic because we have a few minutes to go and I want us to delve into this particular issue. Norbert Mao came out recently, appearing on Uganda's television recently, in fact this week on Wednesday, and he made some grave accusations against you. Some are not new, like the accusation of you meeting the president secretly. We've had that that narrative before. You've commented about it, but for those who have not heard about it, please, you're going to reiterate yourself. But he also mentioned some things, and he says the opposition of this country is misleading Ugandans to say that when you speak up or when you send members of parliament to represent you, when you do politics here, you're just lying to Ugandans. Because let me read exactly what he says, because he says you betray the trust of let me start from where I started. Dr. Besigye meets Museveni secretly. You betrayed the trust of DP, which gave you your first platform. You promised not to form a political party, which you later did. He says entrenched military regime can't be removed by a very unserious opposition like this one. Doctor, do you concur with what Norbert Mao is saying about the unseriousness of this population? But before you even answer that question, is it true that you secretly meet the president, and of course you betrayed the trust of DP that trusted you and gave you your first platform when you're coming to, when you're standing against what you call the junta today? Doctor, what is your comment on that?
Well, first of all, as I have said over and over again, the last time I met Mr. Museveni was in the year 2000, shortly after I had been discharged from the military. And he had invited me to find out what I intended to do with my freedom from the military. And that was the last time I had a meeting with him. Of course, we've met in some public functions where we've greeted each other. I've met him twice in those kind of situations. Both of them religious functions in Namugongo, and both were, I think, in Namugongo. Beyond that, I have not had any physical encounter of Mr. Museveni at all in the last 23 years. However, I talk to people that talk to Museveni, and I talk to those many times. You know, even now, if I meet Mao, I will talk to him, and he's now a Museveni man. But if I meet him, he can first of all tell me what possibly Museveni wants him to tell me if I meet him. And if he tells me what Museveni has asked him to tell me, I have no reason not to respond to what he tells me. And I have had many of such encounters, people who have come to me with messages from Museveni, or some have no messages even, but they believe that there should be an engagement on their own, and they try to find out what my views would be to such an engagement. So those have been very much there. Indeed, at some stage, the Swedish government, through their one of their foreign ministers, after the 2016 elections, tried to mediate between us and Museveni on one issue. That time it was on the results of the election. We were demanding an audit of the election, and they thought that they could form that coordination that could lead to an audit of the election. As it turned out, it didn't work out because, again, Mr. Museveni jumped out of that arrangement. So I have not had any, negotiations really directly with Museveni, save for what I have said when people come and suggest, Mr. Museveni is saying this, and I respond to them. If those are the ones he calls talks, I will continue having those, including if I meet him somewhere and he has been asked to say anything to me, I will hear what he has to say, and I will give him my answer back. But you see, I think that Mr. Mao is Honorable Mao is a victim of his own actions. I think because he chose to surrender to the junta, he now feels that he must try and get some people that appear in the same light as he. I think he's looking for company of people that may be considered as engaging with Museveni the way he did. What Mr. Mao did can only be described as a surrender. There is no negotiation, there is nothing that he can get from being in the government. There is really nothing. He just got a job for himself. And obviously surrendered DP to the junta, or parts of DP, because others obviously rejected to associate with him and his betrayal. So I think that's what is nagging him. That is what is troubling him.
But he does not see it as betraying, but rather he sees it as the most serious way to really sit down with this gentleman and find a way to. Yeah,
that's why. That's sort of the more reason why it is.
And he says you're an unserious.
Yes, that's sort of the more why, even he himself in those words really is saying that he surrendered, because he's saying that he found that the opposition did not have the capacity.
Very unserious.
For whatever reason, he considers that the opposition, or what he calls the opposition, does not have capacity to change the situation. So if you come to the conclusion that there is no hope for change, then his rational alternative is to join them. As the saying goes, if you can't defeat them, join them. That's what he's saying. He's saying the opposition, what he calls opposition, I never use those terms, but what he calls opposition, he says they are unserious, they cannot take over power. Yeah. Now, he was part of that unseriousness that cannot take over power. So, since he comes to that conclusion that there is no way we shall ever take over power, so he must have naturally, logically,
taken another route,
come to the conclusion that the option to do is to join them. Since we will not be defeating them, I must join them, or we all must join them. Now, I don't, I have the greatest contempt for that kind of approach. First of all, even for the characterization of the sides, that there is government side and opposition side. I have contempt for that characterization, and I have been saying it for a long time. What there is a population that is held hostage, that is excluded, that is terrorized, that is robbed by a cabal of armed men under the control of Mr. Museveni's family. That is the reality of the situation we are dealing with, not opposition and the government, because those connote a situation of some kind of a competition where the population have embraced a majority that forms government and the minority forms the opposition. That's not the situation here. What is called government is not a majority. It's, as we have been talking about here, it's actually, as of now, by the time he joined them, not previously, but by the time he joined them, the only reasonable description is a criminal outfit that he joined, that is holding the country hostage. Previously, and I was part of it, and that's not the reason I exclude it from the criminality, but we were fighting to cause change. We believed we could cause change, and we outlined what change needed to be caused in a clear document. We betrayed the population along the way, and we have pointed out in what ways. And so the legitimacy of the struggle, that whatever legitimacy we may have had in the struggle, was definitely eroded. And that's how some of us abandoned that ship. And then it started sleeping along the path, the very slippery path of crime. And the Honorable Norbert Mao, by the time he came to the conclusions he talks about, he was joining simply a criminal outfit. So it's not that there is opposition, there is government.
Yeah.
Now, so what is failing to, and I don't know whether it's genuine or not, is to realize that the leaders within the oppressed, marginalized population may be having challenges, the leaders within this population, but it's no cause to abandon the population and join the terror of the population. You see, the best anybody would hope, even a frustrated person within the population would do, would be to try and build a more serious leadership capacity within the population. Instead of doing that, I have had him make, again, very contemptible assertions that he is going to try and get some dialogue.
Yeah.
Some dialogue between the people of Uganda. I don't know whether it's the people of Uganda or whether it's his the groups like opposition parties with Museveni. And I have, challenged him. What does he consider will be the persuasion? What persuasive tool does he have to get those who exercise absolute power to abandon it and hand it over to others? What tool is there? Where has it happened that, somebody just persuades those who control everything to just abandon without any effective pressure that is built to extract that? It cannot happen.
But doctor, then I want to also try to
simply, Mao would do the country good service and certainly himself good service if he just quietly eased himself into whatever goodies he's having in the government and become part of them nicely and stop this nonsensical talk.
But doctor, for more than 20 years we have used the approach that you think is the one that will work, but it has not worked. And this gentleman is bringing another perspective to say, at least let's try this option.
Which perspective is he bringing, if I may know?
Of dialoguing, of talking to the government, to Museveni,
so if he wanted to dialogue, must you first join the ones you want to dialogue with? Why didn't he dialogue as a DP and achieve something? Must you first become a member of the criminal group you want to dialogue with in order to have the dialogue? What made him become part of them? So now he wants a dialogue between who and who? Between himself and the government, or who? It's all does not make sense. It's absolute nonsense. And the sooner he really stops kicking, we are not following him. We have understood what has happened. He has not had me, follow him to say, what is Mao doing now? Let him just settle in there and become part of which he already is, become simply part of our problem.
But let's talk about this opposition really. I want to also think from Mao's perspective. I don't know why I'm not leaving it, but the opposition that we're talking about is getting money. For example, the members of parliament, let me speak for them. They are getting money from the junta. You are getting over 40 million at the end of the day. And you are comfortable. You're having fuel from government.
This is why I have...
Do you even have the capacity of fighting such a status quo?
You see, this is why I have told you, I don't characterize the struggle in the country between government and what you call opposition. It is the people of Uganda who are against the war, whose children cannot go to school, who have no health care. It is the street children, those children you see on the streets who have no hope and no future. It is these people that genuinely want change. And anybody, therefore, who does not engage with, promote, facilitate those people to assert their will is not helpful. Whether he is from an opposition political party, what they call opposition political party or not. There are many people who masquerade in opposition political parties who are even worse than those who are in government. So the whole struggle is not labels. It's not labels that, it is this party, it is that party. It is the excluded versus those who are excluding them. It is the marginalized versus those who are marginalizing. It is the terrorized versus those who are terrorizing them. It is the robbed, like we have been talking about, versus those you saw. We were debating here some time back, I think, Honorable Betty Kamya's statement saying, you know, I am not a victim
Of corruption.
of corruption. You are. Mao is now not a victim of corruption. He is not a victim of poor health. Like Honorable Bet Kamya said, if he has any problem, they will send him to Canada or to UK or to some other place. So the people to fight for themselves, the people whom we, if we are to be of any help in this whole change dynamics, the people whom we have to empower are those people. To empower with the right information, to give them confidence so that they regain their confidence. Not to say we can't, we have to deal with Museveni, there is nothing we can do. No, there is everything we can do. Mr. Museveni is actually a person who is in a very, very weak position. The population of Uganda can be powerful with minor adjustments, you know, getting more information to them, getting slightly more organized in the population, they can assert their will.
So it's not really about the leaders, but the people.
No,
themselves.
absolutely not. Absolutely. Leaders are part of the problem for the most part. Most leaders are part of the problem, whether they are on the opposition or government, because, and you've heard me say this over and over again, the whole question of selfishness. The elites, the political elite, whether they are within the what is called opposition or within government, the greatest undoing about us, the elites, is our selfishness. And so the best we can do is simply to empower the real marginalized people, and whether then we are able to continue with the struggle or not, once they are empowered with information, they are organized, they can turn the tables themselves. And so if we are to make any contribution, and that's hopefully the contribution that we can make, is empowerment. And that's why I have been over and over, you know, saying that what is needed first is information. Information about how you became captives and who is holding you captive, and how your situation will not change unless you turn the tables. And how can we turn the tables? Talking about how we can turn the tables. If we organize ourselves and if we assert our will, we can turn the tables. Yes, that is the most critical process that is needed. Not going to become part of the problem, or simply to say this problem will not be solved because some political elites are not serious. No, the problem can still be solved whether political elites are not serious or not. It doesn't take very many. Remember, even when Museveni went to the bush, and whether armed struggle or not armed struggle, the processes are similar. He was only able to go with 20 people. They were not the only ones who wanted change, but they were the only ones who were able to take the risk. And even the 20, as soon as they had gone, some defected. So they remained even fewer than 20. But because they persisted, the population was empowered. And the population asserted its will to bring in more people to be trained, to do what, to give them food, until they won a war. So the same here. There may be few voices that will persist in empowering the population, But once the population is empowered, it will turn the tables. And once it turns the tables and regains control over the country, which has never happened in the last 130 years, if it happens, it will not be reversed.
Okay.
So that's why we are extremely hopeful. And by the way, people who defect when things appear too tough, like the Maos, again, we are familiar with them. Even when we were in the war in Ruwero, at the 1984 was a very, 83 was a very, very tough time. 83, early 84, up to mid 84 was a very, very tough time. And many people defected, you know, not knowing that actually, just like in nature, the darkest part of the night is before dawn. Exactly. so when the signs, you know, of these defections of Maos and so on are good signs that the tide is about to turn.
Doctor, we have just like 9 minutes to end this particular discussion, and I want to bring in the issue of that was raised by some people here. You were talking about, you were in this particular show with my colleague, and you were talking about Museveni's COVID-19 you know, diagnosis, and some people, the statement you said that I don't care if he's COVID-19. For me, my job is to take him. It was in Uganda. Doctor, many people received this information with contempt. Some were happy that you were mentioning such statements, but some other people say it's radical and insensitive of yourself to speak about someone who's battling COVID-19 in such a manner.
Yes, you see, Edgar, two things. First of all, as I have, you know, very, very repeatedly said, we live in two Ugandas, and we behave in two distinct ways. The people who live in Museveni's Uganda of privilege, the 9% plus, not all of them, of course, but therein, they will be concerned if, you know, anybody attacks or does not speak well of or appears not to be concerned about Mr. Museveni, they will say, you know, how can you be so sensitive? You know, those comments I can predict. And I normally, you know, easily, you know, I normally laugh about it. When I see a comment, I go to the timeline of the person who has written the comment. And quite often you'll find the picture at the headline, or at the top of the timeline, is Museveni himself or Muhozi, or things like that. Yes, sir. So there are a particular type of people that will find what I said, you know, uncomfortable or even stronger terms like they use. The others will not. As you know, some have been going even very extremist to conduct celebrations and so on when somebody from the other Uganda dies. Yes, not only becomes sick, but if somebody from the other Uganda dies, the ones in this Uganda celebrate, you know, and so on and so forth. So that reality needs to be kept in mind when assessing how people respond to anything. Now, what I said, again, some people deliberately take out of context. The context was, Museveni has never reported in all the 37 years he has been in power.
Yes, sir.
He has never said he's sick. This is the very first time that he's readily admitting or publicizing his ailment. Is it real, or there is something else he is trying to work on? And there was indeed that debate.
Yes, it is still going on even up now.
Yes. Is this a genuine illness, or is it another calculation for something else? And the reasons for that is that nobody can obviously believe that in 37 years he has never had an ailment. He must have been.
There's an issue with mistrust in this country.
Yes, and
even
with,
if they don't trust you, they still think you are Museveni's color.
And with good reason. You see, if somebody has never said, you know, I felt unwell, I didn't do this because I was for 37 years, and all of a sudden you are willfully then you yourself, you have caused room for that kind of suspicion, and especially if you are well known for hardly saying the truth. You know? Because again, anybody who has been following Mr. Museveni will know that whatever he says, he normally means something else. He says something and does something completely different. So the debate was over that. Should we take this as a genuine ailment, or should we see something more in it?
Yes.
And my response was, it does not really take my time to interrogate whether this is a genuine illness or not a genuine illness. Of course, if he's sick, him more than any other person he's supposed to look after is cared for. he's not in any shortage of care. He is over cared for, in fact. That's why he goes with a hospital in a vehicle. Wherever he goes, he has a fully fitted hospital in one of those trucks. I understand there is even a theater bed. Yes, that goes with him everywhere. And he has kitchens and all other kinds of amenities to keep him safe and comfortable. So, my biggest worry is not to worry about the health of such a person. He's well cared for. So whether he's telling lies or he's not telling lies, that is not where I will focus. What we must focus on as the people of Uganda, because actually the greatest majority of, even as he's complaining about whatever health, the greatest majority of Ugandans simply have no access to health care. And so the greatest preoccupation we should have is to end the rule of Mr. Museveni. Whether he has COVID or not, we cannot say we
Doctor, thank you so much. Thank you so much. We just have a minute. In just a minute, Doctor, please speak your parting shots, because I think you have clearly elaborated it and you've reiterated what you said.
Absolutely.
So I understand your perspective. Please give us your parting shots, Doctor.
Well, the talk today was largely about the ongoing situation with our economy, with our human rights, with our healthcare systems, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
These are highly political matters. And what frustrates me most, Edgar, in our country is for some people to say, me, I am not political. Everybody must be political, everybody must be concerned, and everybody must do everything in their power to change the situation that we are in today. This is not a matter for politicians, it's a matter for all Ugandans. I leave it up to you. I hope that you have a great weekend, and look forward to talking to you again next week. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you so much, Doctor. It's always a privilege, and of course, I'm humbled to be having you every Saturday. Thank you so much for always accepting and coming here. And of course, a special thank you to each and everybody who has been watching from the time we started up to now. Thank you so much. Thank you for all those comments, and of course, thank you for always sharing these videos. Continue to share them. So that the whole world can really, get to know how Uganda is today. My name is Edgar Matthew Karuhanga. We shall be having the Snap Talk show in the evening at exactly 6 p.m. Don't miss that with Teddy Tenjo Nabukera. From the entire Digitalk team, allow me wish you a very good weekend, a very beautiful weekend, and of course, may God bless you and God bless Uganda. Good afternoon.
Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.